everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of the KeenGamer Podcast. My name is Kyle, and we got a great show for you this week. Before we get started, though, I should probably introduce my guest. You've heard her before. It's the great Jessica Orr. Jessica, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back. Got the
Of
great
course.
Kyle.
I like to introduce my guests with great, adjectives like great, amazing, fantastic, whatever I can. How's everything been since you were last on the show? I think last time we had you was the the Guardians of the Galaxy podcast.
Yeah, it's been good. Playing games, watching
Yeah.
movies. It's been
Yeah.
nice over the holiday period.
Yeah, the holiday period, it's nice to just get under a blanket, look at 4 or 5 movies on the shelf, be like, you know what? I'm going to binge all of Matrix today, or I'm going to binge all of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Funny you said that. I did binge all of the Matrix.
I did too. I did that recently. I watched Matrix Resurrections a couple days ago. It was not worth the binge. I'm not sure if you've seen Resurrections yet, but
the second one?
No, the newest one, the one that came out 2021.
Resurrections? I did see it, yes.
Because I'd never seen any of the movies before, so I'm like, let's go back to the original, and then I'll make my way up for the new one. First Matrix, incredible. Loved it, blew me out of the water. Got to Reloaded, was like, this is maybe not as good as the first one, but maybe it all makes sense by the third one. It didn't. And then Resurrections comes around, and my brain was falling asleep about 40 to 50 minutes into it. So
I can't tell if I like it or not. So
I like the concept. I really loved the concept of the Matrix in the first movie. It's once they start getting into Zion and the other stuff that is in that universe that I think it really gets dull and boring. But this is not the Matrix podcast. No. This is the KeenGamer Podcast.
We digress.
We digress. We may have been sidetracked 2 minutes into the show. It's been a busy week for video games. We're going to start the show the way we usually do, talking about the games that we're playing, and then we're going to go right into news, and I think news is going to be the biggest part of our show today. There's no specific topic I have planned. Microsoft is buying Activision Blizzard, and that is probably some of the biggest news in gaming history. So we're going to break all that down at the end of the show, but first, games that we're playing. I was telling Jessica before we went live, it is very rare for more than one person on the show to be playing the same game. So I was very excited to see that you're playing the same game I am, which is Nobody Saves the World. For anybody who doesn't know, Nobody Saves the World is the newest game from Drinkbox Studios. They're the team behind Guacamelee and Severed. This game is out on all Xbox consoles, PC, and Game Pass. And I love this game. I think it is the first great game of the year, and I'm already having a hard time seeing it not on my top 10 list. What do you think, Jessica, so far?
I mean, it's a delight to play, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, let me start with how far into it are you?
I'm in the west area, so I guess I've only done the first major dungeon. Oh, I'm in the second dungeon on the west.
Okay.
The robot?
I know, I did the robot a couple days ago. So for anybody who's listening to this and doesn't know what the game is, it's like a top-down action RPG. I think that's kind of the best way to describe it. It has Zelda elements in it in terms of there's fairies around the world. Maybe not the fairies you'd find in Zelda, but there are fairies that will increase your MP. And the story of the game is probably not even the best part. You play as a character named Nobody, who, how would you describe the protagonist? As a hollow silhouette of a human?
Yeah, he looks like a white potato sack.
With eyes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go with that. So you play as a white potato sack with eyes, and the game begins, and there isn't really much setup. You end up being falsely accused for a crime. You are put into prison, and between all of this, you actually find a wand. And this wand lets you transform into other characters. So when you land in the jail, you're just your potato sack human being, but the first thing you can turn into is a rat. And the rat is small enough to let you escape the prison and continue from there. So I guess just in general, that's just the general story. And I'm probably 15 hours into the game. I think my base character is level 25. And the story has been really back burner stuff for me. This game is amazing, I think, because of the gameplay and the mechanics involved.
Yeah, definitely. I also like enjoy that dumb humor they have.
Yeah, yeah. Drinkbox, like Guacamelee was known for its very meme heavy humor, and I think a lot of that is in Nobody Saves the World as well. Like there's one character who whenever you talk to him, he like throws his head back and yells like a very back of the throat, like ah, if that makes sense. I'm not, maybe that's wrong, but the humor is really good. I guess what I'm enjoying the most is the sense of progression that the game is always giving you. So throughout the game, I think that there's a total of maybe 15 characters that you can turn into, and each one you can level up from an F rank to an A rank. So, for example, say you're playing as the rat. The rat will have a few missions like bite 50 enemies or induce poison damage to 25 enemies. And there's probably 3 or 4 missions per rank per character. And just by moving around and attacking enemies, you're always non intentionally filling these bars up and getting your character to be stronger and leveling up faster, which is really just the thing that brings me back to it. I want to see the new characters I haven't played as yet. I want to get my characters to A rank so they can learn new attacks.
I think it's a really
Um,
smart way as well. They give you these quests and you can't progress until you do another person's quests or another
yeah,
thing in the story. It's like forcing you to use all these forms. Because
yeah,
I unlocked what the ranger and the horse, and I was like, oh no, I don't like these. I don't like these at all. And I was like, oh, I have to do it because I want to level up this character to get their move. Um,
yeah.
so I
Think of
did
it.
it and then ended up like loving 2 of their moves. And then that's the other thing I really like, where you can build your own class after
Hmm.
leveling up these classes to make it like your perfect build.
Yeah. So one way of like kind of describing it is your character chart, which has like all the characters you can be on it. It's kind of like a skill tree, and
Mhm.
your potato sack human is the core. But once you get him to level rank D, you unlock the rat. Once you get the rat to rank D, then you unlock separating paths, which will take you to your ranger, your horse, your slug, stuff like that. So as you're leveling every character up, the game is really kind of pushing you to at least try everyone at least once. And you brought up the horse, which, man, when I played the horse the first time, I was like, this is not my character. The
Yep.
horse has a kick attack with its back legs, which means you've got to be butt first facing an enemy to do damage to him. But I started playing as him before I realized that you can lock direction that you're facing. So you can like pretty much run through the entire world ass backwards if you want, just kicking everything that you see. It is amazing.
Yeah.
It does a
No,
great
it
job
is.
of showing you a character that may not be your cup of tea at first, but then once you play with it for like 5-10 minutes, then you're set. Each character also has like 3 unique attacks. So the rat, for example, has Gnaw, I think it has Consume, and I think it has one that kills every enemy with that's poisoned on the screen. And like you're just saying, when you get farther into the game, maybe like the 5 or 6 hour mark, you can start swapping characters' abilities onto other characters to create whatever perfect build you want. So if you didn't like playing as the horse, but you really liked playing as the rat, you can actually use the rat's gnaw and consume powers on the horse, and the horse will start biting enemies instead of kicking. Or you can put like the bow and arrow on the horse, and your horse will start shooting bows and arrows at enemies instead of kicking. So it's really neat. Anything else off the top of your head that's like really sticking out to you in this thing?
Actually, it was really good music for being like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's following the trend of having great music in indie games. But for that type of game, I'd usually stick on a podcast or my own music. But I was like,
Hmm.
no, I think I'll listen to this. When you go into a dungeon, it's got that sort of like spooky tone going on. But then
Yeah.
when you're in the environment and it's got like an exploration theme on, and that also as well, I do like that it's kind of like a traditional Zelda because I could never get in to like the first Zelda or Zelda 2 because
Hmm.
you didn't have a map in the
Yep.
first one.
It's tough.
It is tough. But playing this, I'm like, man, I think I want to play the first Zelda.
Yeah, yeah, go back to it almost. And one thing that's good to know is that the world map is fixed, and the world map itself is incredibly colorful. At one point, it reminded me of like reading. It's almost like a living Dr. Seuss book. There's almost like a Kafka-esque or like an absurd design to everything. Like there's animals that you'll see, but they'll have a third eye for some reason, and it's very like cartoony. Everything feels alive. Very like Dr. Seuss is what I was thinking while playing it. And then, like you're saying about the music as well, this is typically a game I would listen to a podcast while playing. but the beats are so catchy and uplifting, and they kind of remind me of like Crypt of the Necrodancer, like which is another great indie soundtrack. It's just bubbly, pulsive, and it makes you want to just like beat up bad guys to it, which is very good.
Yeah,
Um,
perfect.
yeah, the music, the animation is all fantastic. I feel like there's something else I wanted to bring up as well. Oh yeah, the world map is fixed, but every dungeon you go into is randomly generated. And also, this game may sound like a roguelite, where it's like, oh, you go into a dungeon, you level up your character, but if you die, you might lose all your progress. This game doesn't do that. Which, there's a world where this game comes out, and it is a roguelite where you lose half your money or half your progress whenever you die. You can go into a dungeon as your least ranked character, just attack enemies, die, go back in, die, go back in, and you'll be A rank or B rank in no time. Like, the game doesn't punish you for death, which I think is very different than games these
Yeah,
days.
like, it almost rewards you because I got stuck in, like, a bonus dungeon somewhere, but
Hmm.
I needed to level up my characters because I wanted the knight was my favorite to begin with.
Yeah, me
So
too.
I wanted him leveled up, so I was like, "Well, I'll just change to the horse and level it up." So I leveled him up in that dungeon, died, went with the
Hmm.
ranger, leveled them up in the dungeon, died.
Yeah,
So it gave me, like, progression even though I was losing technically, and then I
yeah.
eventually did it.
Yeah, no matter what you're doing in this game, you're always making progress. It's never punishing you for dying. It's never punishing you for trying a build that you just want to see if a ghost can kick with horse legs. Like, it's not going to do any of that stuff, which is, very commendable these days because every game feels the need to be a roguelite or a Dark Souls or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But while the dungeons are randomly generated, a lot of them will also have kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, Limits on them. So, for example, the one I'm doing right now, I think there's one in the robot one you're doing. I'm in a dungeon right now where whenever I heal my character, it heals every character in the room. Modifier, that's the word I was looking for. Every
Mhm.
dungeon has a modifier. There's one I walked by that every hit is going to be times by 9,000 damage. And that's my side and the enemies. So I'm curious about hopping into some of these and seeing how they are. Like I said, I'm probably about halfway. I think I got the third gem shard. The whole story is I think you're collecting 5 of these gem shards to stop a calamity from happening.
Yeah, like you said, it's kinda, like, secondary to story, but I do like the humor they put
Yeah.
in between, like, there's, like, Fallout references in that little town with
Yes.
paying in bottle caps and stuff, like, that sort of stuff's nice, but the main story is kind of just
Yeah,
a
the
bit
main story
generic.
is it's very
Mm.
back burner. Like I was saying at the top of the discussion, it's the gameplay, it's the progression, it's the discovering new characters and what their abilities are going to be. Um, so is there characters that stand out to you as your favorite of the ones? I know you said you like the knight at first.
Oh, yeah, and then that dungeon I was telling you I got stuck on, I was like, "Ugh,
Yes.
I guess I'll level up the magician," and I was like, "Oh my god, this guy, you're throwing out bombs," and
Yeah.
sometimes there'll be an actual bomb, and then it can kill you because it happened to me
Yes.
twice, I was like, "What the
Oh,
hell just
I,
happened?"
I didn't know that. I think I just got the bomb yesterday for him, and I was throwing like little flash bombs.
Yeah, like glitter bomb, I think it's called,
Yeah.
yeah. I was it
Also,
was
like the
great.
magician can pull out like rabbits and tigers from a hat.
I love that it was, like, traditional, like, when you're doing, like, a Diablo or something, you have, like, an animal companion, it'll
Yeah.
just do stuff for you, I
Yeah.
like that too.
Having the
Yeah.
familiars.
What about you?
Yeah, my favorite is probably the slug. I'm not sure if you played Slug yet.
Mhm, yeah.
So I'm a huge Binding of Isaac guy. I love games that are top down where you attack enemies with your tears. And the slug is just that. Like, literally, when I started Nobody Saves the World, I turned to my partner and I said, this will scratch my Binding of Isaac itch because I play that game every day and I need something new to replace it. And then I got this character that literally attacks like Isaac from Binding of Isaac. And I was like, this game is amazing. I'm so in now.
Game of the
Uh,
year.
but
Tear
the slug
bullets.
is tier bullets. A, a tier bullet hell game. That's what I want this year. Let me dodge your tears. Um, but the slug is very good. It has this like rapid fire tear burst attack that is really good at knocking out damage. The slug's bonus is that I think he has a higher chance of doing critical damage, which means that more often his attacks will do critical damage than other characters. And also, while you're moving, you're leaving like a trail of sludge behind you, and any enemy that steps in that slows down by like half speed. So that combination of like the tears, the slowdown, and the critical attacks, I just huge fan of. And then I unlocked the ghost yesterday, and I really enjoyed the ghost.
Oh, I've not unlocked the ghost yet, actually.
Yeah, I won't spoil much, but he does some very ghosty things that are very fun to do.
I also love that just the random amount of classes you have, because you have a knight, you have a ranger, and
Yep.
then you have bodybuilder,
Yes. The bodybuilder.
ghost.
Yeah, bodybuilder who just throws dumbbells at enemies. That's
It's
his main
great.
thing.
Yeah.
Have you got the mermaid yet?
That I was about to say, what's your favorite character design? Because I think it's my favorite character design because it's horrific.
Because I saw the silhouette for the mermaid and I thought,
Uh-huh.
it's gonna be a gorgeous mermaid. I'm gonna have some like seduction power, like some song of the
Mm,
siren.
mm.
No, this is like. Remember? Do you ever watch? You like scary movies? You've seen Cabin in the Woods.
Yep.
Remember, like, isn't there like a merman or something at the end of the Cabin in the Woods that's like dragging itself across the floor, almost like sea sluggish?
I actually can't
Anyway,
remember, but yeah,
yeah, the
it's
mermaid from
horrible.
Nobody Saves the World looks like the star of like a mermaid monster movie.
Yeah, and then, like, its power is it just I know it's water, but it just looks like it's
Yeah.
spitting at you.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
I said it earlier with the rat, but each character also has like passive abilities that will help you out in the world. So if you get the mermaid, you can start swimming in lakes and ponds to
Mhm.
get shortcuts and get new items. The rat will let you squeeze into smaller spaces. So it's just such a fun game. And typically, games with multiple characters I can find to be very overwhelming in terms of like trying to min max every character, getting everyone to be the same level, all that stuff. I'm enjoying every second of it, which is like not something I'd say about a lot of games with like a Wonderful 101 where you have like 20 different characters you're playing as. And Nobody Saves the World right now is definitely the game I'm most anxious to get back to and put more time into.
Yeah, I wish I had a little bit more time because I started it and then had to do some other stuff for work, but I was just like,
Mhm.
"Man, this is so fun. I really wanna go back to this as
Yeah.
soon as possible."
My goal is to beat it before Pokemon Legends because once that comes out, that could take over my life. I still don't know about that game.
It has
I'm
the
still
potential, yeah.
It's got potential to win me over, or it's
Yeah.
got like potential to be like Pokemon Snap 2 and just be on the shelf after 5 days. So, Nobody Saved the World. If you have Game Pass, I cannot implore you to check it out enough. I'm not sure what its retail price is if you're
I
not
think
on Game
it's
Pass.
oh, actually, I don't know mine. It's £21 in the UK.
Yeah, I think it's probably about, and I know Canadian currency, so most of our
Yeah.
listeners, we're not helping out too much.
Sorry.
But check it out. It's a great game, and I think in December of this year you'll be hearing a lot about it again on Game of the Year lists because it right now. I mean, I've only played one game this year, and it's on it. So, I'm gonna pivot to you for the next game, and then I'll close this off. You've been playing Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
Yeah, it sucked me back in again.
How many
Uh,
times have you played through the Mass Effect trilogy? Just once or twice?
I used to play it I used to play 1 and 2, together, but I've done it about 10 times, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, I haven't played Mass Effect 3 as much because for some reason with trilogies, I just burned myself out. I did it with
But
the new
yeah.
Tomb Raider trilogy. I always
Hmm.
stop at Underworld, but, yeah, I've played it so many times. I didn't need
Wow.
to buy Legendary Edition. I have them all for PlayStation and Xbox, but I bought it for the PlayStation when it came out in the summer,
Hmm.
and then it hit Game Pass. So I
Isn't that
was
the
like,
worst?
I was like, "Ah, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to play this again." So,
This is your first time in the Legendary Edition, though.
no, I bought it on PlayStation 5
Have you
Legendary
got
Edition.
have you beat the game in this edition though before, or you
Oh, no,
have?
no, no, I was playing it on
Oh, okay.
PlayStation. Yeah, I've came
I
back to
see.
it's kinda like curling up with, like, a book you've read, like, a million times.
Yeah.
Like, I prefer Mass Effect 1. I know a lot of people prefer Mass Effect 2,
Hmm.
because it's the one I played to death, so I know
Yeah.
basically everything everybody's gonna say. I know all the lore anyway, but yeah, I go around and I ask that stupid terminal, "Hey, what's the
Yep.
Citadel?"
You still go around looking for all the Citadel
Keepers.
maintenance people keepers. Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly
Yeah.
where they are. I remember when I was younger, like, such a nerd, I had it wrote down on a piece of paper. It was in my collector's edition every time Mass Effect was brought out, it was like, "Ah, time to get my little keeper list
Nice.
out."
It's
But
funny
now
that
it's
sorry, I was gonna say it's funny that you're
yeah.
playing the Legendary Edition because my partner just booted it up for the first time like a week and a half ago. And me being, I mean, I wasn't a dumb idiot, but a year and a half ago, I played through Mass Effect 1 and 2 for the first time on the
Mm.
PS3 because I had no idea that this remaster was coming. So it's a little bit too soon for me to hop into a fancy or version of games I've just played. But besides the graphics, is there anything else about this version of Mass Effect that is feeling new to you or polished?
a couple of things they did, like in one, they fixed the Mako a little bit. It's still pretty bad.
Oh yeah.
Um, there's a boost feature on it now, which was so handy when you get stuck in a mountain.
Oh yeah.
There's some inventory stuff they fixed. It's still pretty bad.
Yeah.
But the
Oh, in terms of like
best,
weapon loadout and stuff.
yeah, you get loot constantly, and it's
Yeah.
always just there, and you have to manage that like every encounter, every two encounters,
Yep.
otherwise it just stacks up.
Yep.
Um, but the best thing about the remaster is the load time, especially on next gen consoles.
Yeah.
Stuck in elevators my whole life when I was playing the first one. This one you don't even get to see like the little cutscenes sometimes because it's like that
Yeah,
instantly.
seriously.
Yeah.
I was blown away by the load times because as somebody who played it on PS3, I found myself on that elevator for up to 3 minutes. Sometimes it felt like
God.
where I look over and she'll put in the disc, she'll hit play, and then she's running around a planet in 2 minutes tops, I'd say.
Yeah. It'll
Yeah.
cut your it really did. It cut my runtime down. I completed the first one on the PlayStation in the summer in
Mhm.
about, and it was everything in about 40 hours.
Oh wow.
It used to take me like over 50.
So you're gonna be on Games Done Quick in a couple years doing your Mass Effect run in like half-hour
40
speed
hours.
runs, right? Yeah. Welcome to my 30-hour speed run of a game
Yeah,
that's
just
3 hours.
submit.
What was it? I also gonna ask just in terms of characters from Mass Effect, like who are your all-time favorites?
Uh, Gotta give a shout out to my boy Garrus. He
Listen, I hear a lot about
Yeah.
Garrus already in this household.
He's perfect. And I will give a negative shout out to Caden Alenko.
Who's that again?
He's the human companion you get along with Ashley in the beginning. And
Oh.
I
Oh,
don't know,
yeah.
he might be good, but my first time playing, I was like, yeah, I'll romance Caden, I guess.
Yeah.
He's the only boy in this, fine. I was like, sure, I'll see it to the end. But then the second one, I was like, with Thane, you played the second one, didn't you?
Yeah, I played all 3 now. Originally I played number 3 on the Wii U, and I'd only played 3
Oh.
on the Wii U, and then recently went back to play 1 and 2. It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
The Wii
So
U had no
Thane,
games.
oh yeah, I
Go
bought
ahead,
a
yeah.
Wii U. Sorry to go off. I bought a Wii U, and I think I played it twice. Like it was such a
Wow.
waste for me.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
hallelujah for the Switch, though.
Yeah. Hallelujah.
Yeah. So I've imported my save all the way through. So it was Caden, and then he wasn't there. He was being nasty to my shepherd. So
Oh, yeah.
I was with Thane. Something happens in the third one.
Mhm.
And then I tried to get back together with Caden. He said no.
Oh, no.
And I was like, okay, I hate
Wow.
you. But then at the end of the game, I was looking at a picture of Caden. I was like, oh, how dare this game?
Where does BioWare get off? Seriously.
Oh, God, Jesus. Yeah. But
So at the end of the first game, do you sacrifice Ashley or
well,
or
now out of spite,
Caden now?
I always sacrifice Caden.
Yeah, that's what I assumed. I assume now
Like
you
a-
have to always throw him away.
Yeah. Like a bitter ex-girlfriend.
Oh my god.
You're dead.
Well, guess what? Someone's about to get killed by Reapers, and it's not me.
Yeah. I don't know much more I can say about Mass Effect because it's probably like I
Yeah.
love Dragon Age, but it's my favorite like trilogy, like ongoing series that BioWare has done. It was just them at their absolute peak with the storytelling. Every game feels pretty unique.
hmm
And like I said, I love the first one because it feels like this big grand space opera of all this exploration. I love all
Yeah.
the lore they're throwing at you during
The
it.
music in the first game,
Yeah, the
like
music.
that opening, like just main menu theme, it's so chill. I could like leave that on for 5 hours and just like clean the house in
Yeah, it's
Zen
like
mode.
Mass Effect ASMR. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to say any more about your playthrough, but yeah, it's nearly a perfect like trilogy of games for me. I love them.
Just in terms of this edition of Mass Effect, I think it's so cool that there's a version out there with all the DLC included. Because for me, like I said, I played Mass Effect 3 on the Wii U, and you're gonna have to help me here because my Mass Effect vocabulary isn't the best. There's a DLC in Mass Effect 3 that introduces an alien character.
Oh yeah,
he's a
from
Promethean.
Ashes maybe? No, yeah.
You know who
But
I'm
yeah,
talking about, though?
Then the Javik.
Yeah, so I
Mhm.
played Mass Effect 3, and he was part of my story. Like, that DLC was in the Wii U version of the game, so I got to experience that. And then I found out he wasn't part of the main Mass Effect 3, and I was like, wait, but his story, like, made the story make so much sense in a way.
Yeah. Mhm.
So the fact that now you can play Mass Effect. I think it's missing 1 or 2 DLCs because they couldn't get it
It's
to
missing
work.
one from Mass Effect 1, but it was just like a combat arena, and I can barely remember it, which...
Nothing story based, nothing like that. So the fact that you can now pick up Mass Effect, there was like what, 40 DLCs across all 3 games, just like minor missions and stuff. Like the fact that you get the whole package, I think is fantastic. And besides that, like not much else. I do want to hop back into it. It's just so embarrassing thing. This time last year, I'm holding a PS3 controller trying to figure out what a suicide mission is in Mass Effect 2. And then I look over and they announce a remastered version. And I'm like, oh God, what have I done? So I'm going to hop back into it eventually, but yeah, need some time. So I have one more game I'm going to talk about, and that is the newest Windjammers. For people who don't know Windjammers, it is a 1994 Neo Geo arcade game, and here we are, almost 30 years later with the sequel. Windjammers is a flying disc game, and it's very similar to ping pong. It's nothing too crazy. It's like over the head, 1 versus 1. And you against another player or against a CPU are trying to throw a disc into their net, which is their entire right behind the player. The 2 corners are typically worth 3 points. If you get it in the middle, it's worth 5 points. Typically a set is the first to 15 points, or it's the person with the most points after a minute, and it's the best 2 out of 3. So I have never played the first Windjammers before. I listened to and watched a lot of Giant Bomb content, and they cover that game a lot there. So when I saw Windjammers 2 was out on Game Pass, which I should mention, I was like, sure, I'll play this game for free. And it's made by I don't know how to say it, .emu, but they are really great at reviving old franchises. And what I really like about this game at the top is just the style. It's got this really cool 70s beach aesthetic that I really enjoy. The fashion is cool. The characters are all really cool. There's 10 characters in the game, each one from a different country. So I'm playing as the Canadian because that's just what I'm born to do. Each character has their own speed and power stat. So some characters will be able to move faster across the arena, but throw weaker, where other characters are vice versa. And what I don't like about this game to start is there's no tutorial or training mode. For a guy who was 1 year old when the first game came out in 1994, I never played the first Windjammers. And I feel like this new game is kind of expecting people to have that previous knowledge before going in, which I don't. I really wish there was a mode that let me play against like a dummy that would let me just kind of like practice controls. But you can only do controls when you're in a match against an online person or in the arcade mode. So you're really learning on the fly. And when I played this game for the first time yesterday, I think I played for about 90 minutes and I won 0 matches. Sorry, I won 1 match online, and then at the end of the match, I lost connection. So it doesn't count as a win on my
no.
on my stat thing. It says I've lost 9 and won 0, even though technically I know I won 1. So I really wish there was like a tutorial or practice mode, but going back to kind of this morning when I was playing it, I actually felt myself making some progress. Yesterday, I really had no idea what I was doing. You can press 1 button for a simple shot, B is your lob, X is like a slap shot. There's like all these button configurations that it shows you how to do. It says, hit this button for this action command. It doesn't show you what it does or what the impact is of that kind of shot or the strategy behind using that kind of shot. So, but as I was playing more today, it started to click a little bit more. So yesterday, I was kind of like, maybe not my kind of game. Where today, it was really getting its nails into me, and I had to stop playing it because I had to record this podcast. So, as it goes, it's a really cool arcade throwback game. Really cool character animation. Like, it's one of those games where the details of the animation just jumps out at you. One of the best things for me to do is like to watch the audience interaction. It's almost like playing Street Fighter and watching like the characters in the background jump up and down and do their like 2 to 3 frame animations. It is very much that vibe. But I'll probably be playing it more. Like I said, it is currently on Game Pass. You can get it on PS4, PS5, all of the Xboxes, Switch, and PC. It's out on everything for I think about $20. And it only has the 3 modes as well. It only has arcade, where you play as 5 rounds against comms as your character of choice, online, and like the screen that shows you what button does what. So I also kind of wish there was like a campaign or something. I wish that there was a bit more content or mini games in the
This
game as
kind of
well.
sounds like a true throwback to like old retro games. Like just throw you in,
Yeah.
no tutorial. There's only these three modes is even a
Mhm.
lot for that.
It is a spiritual successor to a 1994 game to a T, which makes me wonder. It's like it's 2022. Why wouldn't they try and modernize the game with some of these features that we come to expect, especially a game with such a heavy reliance on online play? I don't want to go online if I feel like I stuck at the game and I'm going to embarrass myself. But if there was a training mode, like I said, or some kind of mode to help prepare me or help give me idea of a strategy I can start using in some of these games, that'd be a lot better. But instead, it's like go online against a person, go face a computer. That's it. Those are your options. So don't have very much to say, except for I guess I'm getting better at it. Despite it not having a training mode, I do feel my brain starting to click. And when your opponent throws the disc at you, you have like a half second to react before it lands in your net. So it's kind of figuring out what kind of shot are they going to use, how am I going to defend against that shot, and then eventually how am I going to score on them. So Windjammers 2, it's a lot of fun. I liked it. I just get frustrated when I don't feel myself getting better, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah. But that's it for the games we're playing. We talked about Nobody Saves the World. We talked about Mass Effect Legendary Edition and Windjammers 2. And now we're going to go into the news. There's like one small news story that I want to talk about, and then we'll go into the big news story of Microsoft and Activision. But to start off, and I don't even want to talk about the game itself, but I think last week Nintendo dropped Banjo-Kazooie on their Switch Online service, and they just announced that Majora's Mask will be next month's game. And I just have to I don't know anybody who's paying for this N64 service personally, but if you were and you got one game a month for your $50 a year, do you think you'd be satisfied? Because the rate that they're dropping these games is just, it feels like they don't care that much.
Yeah, for me, it's also they're dropping it onto this streaming service. They're asking for that much for one game a month, and you can't purchase these games from their store.
Yeah.
You have to get this. Can you do it monthly? Is it year? You have to go
You
for year?
you can pay monthly, but it makes a lot more sense to pay for the yearly service. I think you're saving almost like half of your money if you just get the yearly over the monthly plan.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, I'm not opposed to these games being on this service at all. I think it's great that we're seeing Banjo Kazooie and Legend of Zelda, even though it's not the best version of these games, as the Ocarina of Time port was kind of discussed about. Um, why can't I just buy? Why do I have to pay $50 a month instead of just? I'll give you guys $12 right now to give me Banjo Kazooie, and I'll walk away.
Yeah, like they'd have my money. They'd have my money for Ocarina of Time. They'd have my money for Majora's Masks, Pokemon
Yeah.
Stadium that they're gonna do, but I can't justify spending that on like you said, like and I don't even know. Like they announced that's gonna be the next one. You don't
Mhm.
know what you're gonna play and if you get that year subscription.
And you have to wonder as well, because I think that they have also announced like Pokemon Stadium and some other first party games. There's only like a finite amount of first party N64 games that people are going to want. This time next year, when it's 2024 or 2023, and we already have all the games we want, what are we paying for? Oh, guess what, guys? You now have Pilot Wings on the Switch. Hey guys, you guys now have Hey You Pikachu. You can't play it without a microphone, but at least you have it. Like, I just don't know what kind of games we're going to be getting. And not even to mention, we're not even getting NES and SNES games anymore, it feels like. Maybe we are, and I haven't noticed, but it feels like we're not even getting traditional SNES titles like Earthbound or Mario RPG that I really want to play. Instead, one N64 game a month is your
Yeah.
reward for paying us. Where you and I were talking about it before we went live. Sony, I give them, I think, $60 a year, and I get almost 3 free games a month. Like, I feel a lot better about that transaction than anything Nintendo is doing.
Yeah,
But
in comparison to PlayStation Plus and Xbox Game Pass, it's not. It feels like Nintendo are like, oh well, we need some sort of streaming or game monthly
mhm,
service, but we're Nintendo, so we're gonna do something weird. We're gonna charge
yeah,
money. A lot of people are gonna play for it because I feel like if you are a Nintendo like super fan, you will get it.
mhm,
I'm more of a casual Nintendo person,
yeah,
so that's why I would just buy Zelda on it,
yeah.
or have the option to do it. I wouldn't do the subscription for it,
Uh,
and like I said, it just feels like a weird decision where they were like, well, let's just make some quick money in this
yeah,
kind of half-ass streaming service.
yeah. It's really weird. And like if they were also offering like Game Boy Advance games and Game Boy Color games for this same price tier, and we were getting like Pokemon Red, Yellow, and Blue, and some other games, it'd be fine. But one game a month for the unforeseeable future, I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I just wanted to bring it up because it just really stuck out to me that they launched the service with I think 12 games, and we're already down to like the trickle of like one game at a time. Oh, you guys want another game? Here's one more for you. Here's F-Zero. Um, so we'll keep our eye on that as time goes on. But let's break open this big walnut of a news story. I can't remember what day it was, but I woke up, I grabbed my phone, and the first thing I saw was that Microsoft was planning on acquiring Activision and Blizzard. What were your initial thoughts when you read this news?
Every time I read news like this, I have to check the date to make sure it's not April 1st.
Yeah,
April Fool's
seriously.
Day, honestly, if I see the world's just so ridiculous that I have to like check the date. Like, is it April Fool's Day? This was another one of those. I woke
Yeah,
up, saw it, and was like, wait, what's going on? And then saw that the official like tweet from Xbox. I was like, oh, I guess
yeah.
this is real.
So, for people who don't know, yeah, I believe this was on Tuesday that it was announced that Microsoft was closing in on a $70 billion deal to buy Activision Blizzard. And at the very top of the show, I was saying how this is probably one of the biggest news stories in the gaming industry. But if you take a step back and look at the world as a whole, this is one of the biggest acquisitions in history. Like, very rarely do we see companies dropping this much money to acquire something else. If you go back 14 years from now and think about Disney and Marvel, Jessica, do you know how much Disney paid for Marvel back in the day? I believe it was around the number of $4 billion.
Yeah.
Um, when Disney bought Star Wars, I think that was for a little bit more than the Marvel price, but that's these aren't even an 18th of the numbers that we're seeing now. $70 billion. So Microsoft can buy the company that puts out games like Call of Duty, Overwatch, World of Warcraft, Diablo, Tony Hawk at one point, Guitar Hero at one point. It's just there's a lot to kind of break down here. And I think the best place to start is, do you think that Microsoft is going to start making these games exclusive to their console?
I don't know because that's a lot of money.
Yeah. And like
I feel like
let's
when people were talking about Bethesda, it made sense. Like, okay, we're
mhm.
kind of gonna lock you out of that because we want you to come to Xbox to play these premier Bethesda titles.
Mhm.
But with this, there's such huge games, like massive games. Like, would Overwatch really not come to PlayStation? Would
Yeah.
Call of Duty really not come to PlayStation? But I did mention this. You probably have it for later on, but that Phil Spencer tweet where it's like, it's our desire to keep Call of
Mm.
Duty on PlayStation, where there's been so much talk about it, but they are kind of putting it in the court of them. Like, if you cut us some sort of deal,
Mhm.
we will keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. And also, I am with like nearly everyone saying that they're not going to pull like Warzone from it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't see that ever happening.
I think Warzone is definitely a staple. It's been really fun trying to break down the quotes from Phil Spencer and stuff. Like he had one earlier that was like, "It is not our goal to take away communities from the PlayStation service," and I'm like, okay, so you don't want to take them away, but you're not saying anything about adding communities to the PlayStation
Yeah.
service.
Mhm.
And bringing up Bethesda, because I think it was about half a year ago. I don't know. Time is so weird. I don't know how long ago it was, but when they bought Bethesda, they're buying the developer of primarily single player games. You look at Skyrim, you look at Fallout, you look at Doom, and there may be multiplayer features, but those are mostly single player experiences. Um, Call of Duty and Diablo and Overwatch, these are all
World of
online.
Warcraft.
Yeah, World of Warcraft. Like, these are all online games that require a large community to succeed. But when it comes to Call of Duty, if you think about it, would it be a big miss for them or a big loss if they took it off PlayStation? It'll still be on PC. It'll still be on Game Pass on console and PC. It has not been on Switch since like Black Ops Ghosts, maybe, or not Black Ops. I just fused two Call of Duties together. Since like Call of Duty Ghosts, like I don't think Call of Duty's been on Nintendo for quite some time, so that market doesn't bother them. They'd only be removing the Sony player base, which, if you think about it, how many of those people probably just own a PC anyway?
I saw some statistic as well. I can't remember who did it. I'm sorry, but it was 55% of PlayStation gamers play Call of Duty.
Oh my god.
Like, it was insane. I was like, "What?" But then I started thinking, I was like, "Yeah, I know so many, like, ancillary people in my life who only
Mhm.
play Call of Duty." Like, they wanted a PS5 just to play Call of Duty and, like, maybe the next Grand Theft Auto.
And then that's the other thing as well. We're talking about Bethesda again. People, Call of Duty is synonymous with gaming. You cannot talk about gaming and some stranger behind you, the first thing they think of is Call of Duty. There's still people out there who don't know what a Skyrim is. Like Bethesda, in our world of gaming and being in this industry all the time, they're really on our radar. If you're the average 30 to 40-year-old who didn't grow up with games and maybe your kids are kind of interested and that's your only pastiche into it, you don't know what a Skyrim is. You don't know what a Fallout is. But to have some of the biggest franchises in the world and Call of Duty, and let's talk about some of the stale IP that Xbox now owns when it comes to Guitar Hero, when it comes to the Tony Hawk franchise. Microsoft officially owns Sekiro, the FromSoft game. There's just a lot that they have picked up that I'm. I think that we can agree as a consumer, as you and me, as people who play games, this is probably a good thing.
Oh, yeah, like, it's like, after checking if it wasn't April Fool's Day, my
Yeah.
first thought was, "Well, I guess I don't ever have to buy Diablo again because 'cause I'll just always have a Game Pass subscription."
Like, isn't that kind of the thing for us where it's like, oh, cool. So now when the new Tony Hawk game drops, I'm going to be grinding it out in LA. That's came out weird. I'm going to be riding a skateboard in LA in no time. Call of Duty, World of Warcraft. Imagine a World of Warcraft on Game Pass where you get a subscription or I don't know.
Yeah, like, I'd be super excited to get it on Xbox as well because I know
Mhm.
Xbox has Star Ocean, but
Yeah.
nobody really it's not like the like, PlayStation has Genshin Impact, PlayStation has Final Fantasy, like,
Mhm.
they've got those console MMOs, whereas I don't think Xbox has a hold on that. That would be cool. It would get me playing
Mhm.
World of Warcraft if it was on Xbox.
I think that you bring up a very important part about how Sony has a lot of these Final Fantasies and JRPGs. Everything that Microsoft has done so far has not really changed their influence in the East. They're still buying the companies and franchises that are really popular here in Canada, America, North America, etc. But they still haven't picked up like a Square Enix because Xbox like generally doesn't do very well in Japan, from what I know. They are probably very securely the third ranked console of the big three. Um, so I'm curious if Sony would consider stepping in and starting to pick up some of the Eastern studios, like a Square Enix, even like a well, I guess Square Enix is the main one, to try and balance the scales. Do you think that we're in a potential situation where a week and a half from now we wake up, make sure it's not April 1st, and then find out that Sony has bought Ubisoft or EA or Capcom?
I think it's possible, but that would be, like, that they're truly making their intent know that I think it would be possible Square Enix because 'cause they've had a very good relationship with them for ages. They have timed
Hmm.
exclusives with them, like, Final Fantasy VII Remake still isn't out on another console.
Yep.
It took a while for it to come to the Epic Games Store after,
Yep.
like, what felt like a billion leaks of it said it was coming to the
Yeah.
Game Store. I think it could. There is also a really interesting statistic I wanna bring up as well because 'cause they're talking about
Hmm.
if Sony were to do this,
Yeah.
how much here it is. Microsoft's market cap is 2.3 trillion. So, and then they made it a 68.7 billion acquisition. So that
Oh
would
my
be
god.
like Sony, who have a 146 billion market cap. They would,
Jesus.
to make it like equal, they would have to spend 4.4 billion. So like if someone was talking about, oh well, Sony can go buy Take-Two, Sony
Hmm.
can do, I think it would be a massive dent um in their everything.
Yeah.
It would
No.
be like a huge statement from them if they did that. But I
Yeah.
also don't think they do because, like you said, Xbox didn't go and buy a huge JRPG studio. They're playing to their strengths.
Hmm.
Um, Xbox now seems Bethesda as well. Like it's the place for like the shooter and the Western RPG.
100%. And yeah, that's why I think it's interesting why despite all this stuff, it doesn't really change their place in the industry from my POV. I think right now, the only way they've improved is that if somebody were to approach me and say, "Should I buy a PS5 or an Xbox?" I'm saying Xbox every day of the week at this point.
Yeah,
Like, and I own a PS5. I don't even own an Xbox. I'm going to tell you, the consumer, go buy an Xbox.
yeah.
If you're looking for value and to save money, then this is definitely in a year and a half, 2 years, an investment that will pay off in dividends. Because
I
I'm still,
also
go ahead, yeah.
no no you go ahead. I was going to change topics.
Because I'm still a guy who's going to have to pay $90 for God of War 2 when it comes out. I still have to pay $90 when the Last of Us thing remaster comes out. Like, there's still expensive purchases coming my way, especially because PS5 games cost more than PS4 games. So, like, I'm paying even more, it feels like.
Best case scenario of this, I know there's been talk about using like the Call of Duty IP and keeping stuff off PlayStation to bargain for Game Pass on
Hmm.
PlayStation. And a part of me is like, that would be awesome. But it, what if it forced Sony to do their version of Game Pass and they were putting their exclusives day one? Because that would be incredible. Like, I would sign up for that in a heartbeat.
That's what I'm wondering, if Microsoft is starting to kind of corner Sony, and not even that Sony wants to do this. They almost kind of have to do this to keep up. Because like I said, I am not, as much as we did a whole podcast last week, our most anticipated games of 2022. God of War Ragnarok was my number one. I'm not looking forward to paying $90 for it, but I want to play that game so badly. And there are currently rumors of Sony starting their streaming service, Spartacus, I think is the current code name. There's rumors of a not a direct, but a Sony showcase coming up in February, so we might hear more about that then. And I'll be very curious. And I think the thing that Sony could do that really be in the good graces of consumers, open up your streaming service to backwards compatibility, have PS1 games on there, have PS2 games on there, really start respecting and appreciating your history as a console generation, as a system maker. Because right now, all I can do is play PS4 and PS5 games on my PS5. I would love to go back and play Mega Man Legends or like one of the old. Let me play the PS1 version of Crash. I know there's a nice fancy remaster. I'm nostalgic for pixels. Let me just do that again.
Exactly. Like I would use, and I would use that service, and I've subscribed to PlayStation Now so I could stream a PlayStation 3 game.
Yeah.
I just prefer to just like buy it and have it there, or have it on their subscription, or like a new version of PlayStation Now.
Hmm.
What did you say? Spartacus was their code name
I
for
think
it,
so. Yeah.
and the option to download it because I mean, just they notoriously have a bad streaming service.
Hmm.
It wasn't a great time playing Infamous on PlayStation Now and other games.
Yeah.
So hopefully it would, because Sony kind of act like Nintendo sometimes, where they make some strange decisions. They're not quick off the mark with things.
Hmm.
So if they could like perfect their PlayStation Spartacus strategy, I mean, ideally day one
Yeah.
PlayStation games, being able to download it from their service. Like if this forced them to do that,
Hmm.
again, that can only be good for like us as the consumer.
Yeah. Exactly. And what, like, I mean, the dystopian nightmare we're trying to avoid is, and I was talking to my partner about this, about in the world of soft drinks, everything is owned by either Coca-Cola or Pepsi. It doesn't matter if you're having Sprite, it doesn't matter if you're having orange juice or water. It's probably owned by Pepsi or Coca-Cola.
Yeah, good point.
I really don't want to be in a situation where I'm playing a game and I don't even know who owns it anymore. I'm like, who is it? Is this Nintendo? Is this Microsoft? I don't even know what this Halo Mario crossover thing is anymore. Um, it's weird. I keep thinking of Radiohead. Tom York once sang that the big fish eats the little one, and man, these fish are getting big. Like when you look at Microsoft and that they just ate this smaller fish for $68 billion. What's next? Nintendo? I don't know. Like, It's interesting, and obviously capitalism is not great, and everything monopolies, everything being owned by 1 to 2 companies is not fantastic. But we're going to try and stay optimistic as the consumer. It should help us in the long run. I do want to talk about some of the smaller studios that kind of came along with this acquisition, because everybody knows Activision, Blizzard, and King as the Candy Crush people, but there are other developers or other studios that Activision owns, like Vicarious Visions, which did that amazing Tony Hawk 1 and 2 remaster a couple years ago, and then right after that game shipped, they were put on Diablo. There's Toys for Bob, who did those really amazing Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon remasters. And I think now they are on Overwatch support.
And
So,
I think both studios, I know the last one you mentioned there anyway, were Call of Duty support as well. It's like, oh, you're
yeah,
done. Come support us with Call of Duty.
yeah.
That's what they were like reduced to. I don't want to be dramatic, but like clearly they made those very well received games.
hmm
Really talented developers, and like, okay, but now your support.
But now you're doing quality assurance testing for the Diablo multiplayer mode. Have fun.
Yeah.
So with Vicarious Visions, specifically, obviously my hope is more Tony Hawk. Now that Activision owns Tony Hawk, the character, not the person, there's a good chance that we could see a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 6 come out that is modern controls, modern soundtrack, great locations. Like that really excites me. But maybe more than that is Toys for Bob. Because like I said, they did the Crash Bandicoot remaster. They did the Spyro remaster. What IP does Microsoft have that could use a remaster? We'll say like some game about a bear and a bird in the 90s. Like, I don't
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
But hypothetically, we could start seeing these studios working on projects that they're passionate about. They're not development teams or helping with production of a different title. They can start working on their own games again. And once again, that's a plus to this acquisition, I think, because Activision was a Call of Duty machine. All they wanted was for people to work on and purchase Call of Duty. But now we're at a place where some studios might have more freedom to work on new projects, which is good.
Exactly. Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah. And then I guess the last question I have for you, unless there's anything else you want to bring up about the whole thing, but as a whole, and I guess we talked about this on and off. Do you think that this is good for the gaming industry? This acquisition?
Uh, uh yes. Where it is now, like Microsoft doing this. I mean,
Mhm.
we can't talk about this without bringing up all the
Yeah, of
like
course.
the lawsuits. Like Microsoft didn't just buy the IPs; they bought a like multiple lawsuits as well. Like famously, notoriously going through all this.
hmm
I, unless there's some secret horrible stuff still going on at Microsoft, like this can only be good for their
In terms of like
workplace
another plus
culture.
as well, it seems like currently on the record, as soon as the transaction goes through, Bobby Kotick is out. Like that's the quote I'm reading is that he's overlooking Activision until this is done.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, he's not going to face any kind of punishment or anything. He's going to walk away with a nice $2 billion, I think, from this whole thing. So, wow, being rich seems nice, right? Um, but I was going to say something else about kind of the whole culture of it all. Oh yeah, just about how I think that is another good thing is that Activision for the last year has been a house on fire, and they said to themselves, we can either buy a hose and put out the fire, or we can sell the house as is. And as the house was on fire, Microsoft came in, looked around, said, yeah, this is good. I'll buy it. So, and you know what? Instead of cleaning up, they just decided to give it to, it's not our problem. Let's give it to somebody else and they'll fix it. Phil Spencer has been, I think, a great leader for Microsoft over the past few years. And I think that he could actually steer Activision in the right direction. I
I
think I'm optimistic at least.
I agree with you. I'm optimistic. Another concern I've seen, I think it is good, but like this is like Phil Spencer's doing and his team. What
Mm-hmm.
happens if Phil Spencer retires? What happens
Yeah.
when, like, if that core team who's responsible for this goes? Like, what is the next Microsoft team going to do with all of this? So I think yes, current micro or yes, Xbox. This seems great. It seems like
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to fix it overnight,
Yeah.
but to know that Bobby Kotick isn't your CEO, that it's Phil Spencer, that they are trying to fix this workplace culture.
Yeah.
But like thinking in the future, is having a giant corporation owning more of these corporations and having control over it really a great thing? If they continue just to swallow up
Yeah.
games companies.
It really feels like a catch-22 at times. It feels like we're winning and losing at the same time.
Yeah.
And the thing about this too is like they're doing all of this for Game Pass, which is still not really making money for Microsoft. Like this is all still them shaking the dice and hoping for red. Like I don't know, 5 years from now, Game Pass could have been a flop for Microsoft. They're paying so much money for these games. And also, PSA, I want everyone on Game Pass to expect their pricing to go up very soon with Activision stuff. I think once this deal goes through, we'll start seeing their games on Game Pass very shortly after. But there's still a world where Game Pass is not financially successful for Microsoft and they bail on it altogether. Because if you think about the amount of content on there and then the price per player, which for me is about like $12 Canadian a month, like not much. I think at the end of the year, I'm paying for like a game and a half or something. So, yeah, it's all very interesting. Nothing is in stone. There's still a lot that can change between now and the closure of the deal. But yeah, is there anything else you wanted to talk about with the Microsoft buying Activision?
Oh, there was one important one here.
You brought something up. I do think Overwatch 2 will still be multi-platform. I think that game was once a game is announced for consoles like Switch and stuff, I don't know if they can really go back on it. That's why we saw games. Yeah.
An official deal. Yeah.
That's why like games like Deathloop, which are owned by Microsoft, still came out to Sony for 1 year exclusivity. That's why Ghostwire Tokyo is still coming out. But Overwatch 2 and COD I could still see being multi-platform.
Same, yeah. I think it's just that question mark of like, could it? Maybe. But they can't talk about it too much now. Another thing I wanted to bring up is like we're obviously a gaming podcast and we talk about gaming. But this is like they played what 68.7 billion for the IPs, but they also paid for it for the technology side of it too. So I also there was a great article in gamesindustry.biz where they talked to experts about this and like World of Warcraft, for example, their servers, they're in a contract with Google. So once that contract, like they have to honor those agreements go, like it seems inevitable that would switch over to Xbox servers. So it's like they're not making money from that, but they're taking that away from Google, which what Microsoft has said is they're true competitors.
Yeah.
Like it's Google, Amazon, Apple and all that. So if they're taking away like technology revenue as well from those big tech companies, it's not just going to have effect in the gaming industry, but of the like Silicon Valley at large.
It's also worth noting, I think the CEO of Microsoft had a comment or a quote about this whole acquisition and brought up about how it was part of their plan to enhance their future metaverse projects. Did you see this quote as well, Jessica?
I did. Yeah.
I'm just glad that you didn't say NFTs at any point, but I don't even know what that means when I read that.
Like I did. No, go ahead.
Yeah, like metaverse, NFTs, like I'm so confused about the world I'm in. I have to like pinch myself every 30 seconds to make sure I'm not dreaming. But
I feel like people are just making up a buzzword and I'm like, and go.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's try and sell this to somebody.
So it's like this whole thing, it is thick with details and discussion topics and what's going to happen if this happens, and there's so many ways that this can go. If you're a Minecraft fan, this is probably really good for you. You're gonna start seeing some like really cool like Overwatch stuff in Minecraft and Blizzard stuff and Call of Duty, but we will wait and see. Like I was saying, I wouldn't be surprised if we heard something about Sony picking up maybe not a huge third-party company, but when you look at what's left on the table, there isn't much. And competition is very healthy in any industry. And if there's no competition, who wins? I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's going to wrap up us talking about the Activision Blizzard of it all. Once again, there's no topic for the show this week. We knew that this was going to be a pretty dense subject that we talked about. And yeah, I'm curious to say the least about where it goes next. Without further ado, though, that's going to bring us to the end of our KeenGamer podcast this week. Jessica, thanks for swinging by and talking to me about Nobody Saves the World and Microsoft and everything else in between.
Same with you. It's always great to be on the podcast.
Always. If you are listening and you haven't yet, please check out the website. We have great reviews and opinions on video games, movies, and TV shows. If you're listening to us on Spotify, don't be afraid to give us 5 stars. It really helps us out. I'm currently working out a way to get this podcast on Apple Podcasts. I've been messaged a couple times about that being important to people. I'm trying. So one day soon, I will have that done. I want to thank everyone once again for listening to our show, and we'll be back again next week for another KeenGamer podcast. Goodbye, everyone. Have a good day.